Never shall innocent blood be shed, yet the blood of the wicked shall flow like a river. The three shall spread their blackened wings and be the vengeful striking hammer of God. You people have been chosen to reveal our existence to the world. You will witness what happens here today, and you will tell of it later. All eyes to the front. You must watch, dear. It'll all be over soon.
Now you will receive us! We do not ask for your poor, or your hungry. We do not want your tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
It is your evil that will be sought by us.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down.
Each day, we will spill their blood till it rains down from the skies.
Do not kill, do not rape, do not steal. These are principles which every man of every faith can embrace.
These are not polite suggestions. These are codes of behavior. And those of you that ignore them will pay the dearest cost.
There are varying degrees of evil. We urge you lesser forms of filth, not to push the bounds and cross over into true corruption, into our domain.
For if you do, one day you will look behind you and you will see we three. And on that day, you will reap it.
And we will send you to whatever God you wish.
And shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. May swiftly carry out thy command. So we shall flow river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be.
In nomine Patri.
Et Filii, Spiritus Sancti. How far are we going to take this star?
The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution, the depth of faith to go as far as is needed?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
It's that time again.
Wednesday evening across the United States. So, gentlemen, I think we have to talk about it again. Honestly,
It's like they never give up. It's like they want to keep trying to justify this crap, even though most of us don't want it, unless you're one of those weird people like, hey man, but the curry tastes so good. Don't you like them
Immigration.
tacos and burritos?
This is just a modern problem. People in the past have not had issues with immigration, have they?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Steve, to answer your question, Elon got ratioed into the ground by a historian talking about Rome. Just
Oh, okay.
Elon is high intelligent people do have flaws. And one of the flaws is they're so used to being right that when they are confronted with not being right, they frequently can't even recognize that they're wrong. Elon will tell you that the fall of Rome was caused by falling birth rates. There is no...
What?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, no, that was a whole...
Where's the data for that? It doesn't exist.
Well, did Rome have problems with birth rates? Yes. 400 years before the Western Empire fell. Augustus, he had a whole... By the way, Augustus tried to use economic incentives to increase birth rate. It did not work. It didn't work in Roman times. It's not working today in Hungary or Japan and South Korea. It will not work in the future because it doesn't work.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Did Rome have a problem with feminism?
Actually, that depends on how you want to define it, because they didn't go quite as hard on it as we did.
Well, did women start owning a lot of property?
Yes.
And did women gain power, wealth and power prior to the fall of Rome?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Did a lot of people immigrate to the Roman Empire during the declining years? Oh, yes. And did birth rate fall along the same lines when women had power? Men were not as necessary to create the wealth, to earn money, because women had money now. And you had migrants coming in. Oh, but it's only the birth rate. Uh-huh.
Well, the interesting thing about this, and much of the debate between Twitter and a fellow named on Twitter, Roman Helmet Guy, that's his actual name on Twitter, was they were talking about, they're going back and forth about what was the causal factor. But there's an interesting thing you see. Around the same time that the birth rates go down, the immigration goes up. Now, the data from that era is not good enough to say definitively which of those is causal. But if you've studied any of the primary source material and any of the scholarly work on it, what they're going to say is that what they all like to say, in typical historian fashion, is, well, we don't have enough data to really know what happened, but a bunch of things appeared at about the same time.
Yep.
So a bunch of things appeared at about the same time. And what was fascinating about this, by the way, guys, if you don't think that AI will be used to modify history, I have bad news for you. Grok was specifically altered to support Elon's view.
Of course. Not so.
So
I have heard that for years, probably 15, 20 years, about how when everything goes digital, it's all on the internet, that people won't use libraries. And it is a fact that a lot of libraries, university libraries, have been going through their stacks and getting rid of old books.
Yeah, it's true.
You cannot easily find a lot of these old books, which is where a lot of knowledge is. Is it all right? No, probably not. But it was written about a lot of subjects, and now that just disappears. A book written in the 1890s about whatever. Okay, now that's gone. Where are you going to find that information? Oh, maybe they digitized it and put it on the internet.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay.
But can now that digital image be modified? If you buy a Kindle book and they withdraw their privileges and say, "Nah, we don't want you having that book," can they just disable it?
It's called DRM. There's a whole technology behind it, digital rights management, and they can just delete books off your Kindle. Yeah, like so what I find interesting about this whole thing is Elon, he's an engineer, and he was quoted earlier today as at some forum saying, "I view poverty as an engineering problem." And this is where smart people wreck themselves. Poverty is not a problem you can engineer. You cannot engineer.
Or you will always have it.
Yes, exactly, Nick. Poverty, you cannot engineer away the bottom 10% of the bell curve. You can raise them up along with you, and we have done that, but you cannot engineer them out of existence. And the other thing is people are starting to recognize that there are some fundamental logical disconnects in the way we speak about things. And this was on immigration, and everyone was because at the same forum, it was some investment forum earlier today. And yes, that's why I was watching it. He also said, "Oh, well, these Optimus robots are going to take over all of human labor, and soon you won't work anymore, or if you do, it'll be, because you choose to." Okay, setting aside the whole problem of purpose. Okay, Elon, if that's true, then why do we need infinity H-1Bs? Well, and people are starting to ask these kinds of questions, and these are very good questions to ask. Well, you say this one thing over here, but you never stop to think about how you're directly contradicting the other thing you say over there. And you're basically hoping that people won't notice that you said those two things and put them together. Okay. But the problem is you own a platform where people can do exactly that. And so, yes, Grok has been edited in this particular case to support Elon's view of the fall of Rome. Now, there are ways to prompt engineer your way around it to get Grok to admit that what Elon said is at best ambiguous, dubiously dubious in terms of being able to prove it. But just because you say something doesn't make it true. It doesn't matter how smart the person saying it is. If they're wrong, they're wrong. It's okay for Elon to be wrong. Although I'd rather he not be wrong about a Starship launch and have it go boom, but that's,
There's been a lot of, there's a growing amount of talk behind the scenes and on a few YouTube channels about how untrustworthy AI is for giving you truth. And how it's been manipulated. This has been talked about for a while, but there's a growing number. Yes, and the facts are not there. In fact, the funniest one is a story that Dave Callum tells. He's the chemistry professor at Cornell who talks about economics. And he's an active, kind of a libertarian, maybe a bit tinfoil hat, but really smart guy. So anyway, he saw a tweet of this trans BDSM kind of guy getting out of a car, and the cops were just trying to get rid of him. Anybody we can call, whatever. So somebody said, "What is this?" What David Callum wrote, Lindsey Graham. And then he's got a lot of followers. So they went on AI, and I don't know which one, said, "What is this?" AI answered back, Lindsey Graham. And then went a couple rounds, and then, AI, are you nuts? Oh, upon reflection, that's not Lindsey Graham. It's a guy named Dave.
I saw this exchange on Twitter. That was Grok, by the way, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So AI lies to you, and AI will be used to lie to you in support of whatever agenda the people who control the AI wish to do. We saw this particularly with earlier versions of AI around the whole transmission movement, shall we say. AIs were very heavily edited to support a certain view of transmission people. And now it's going to be, Grok is going to start lying to you about, well, apparently now the fall of the Roman Empire and how that all happened. So you're being lied to by the tools that you use to find information. And here's the thing about AI. I do occasionally use it, probably about a couple times a week when I'm working on software engineering problems and I need I have a multivariate question. Search engines don't handle it very well. AI can typically spit out something close-ish to what I need. But that's what AI is for, okay? It is not for searching through history. It is not for answering political problems or political questions. No, you don't want it there. And we've gotten way off topic because I have a whole speech that I'm supposed to read for you guys tonight, don't I?
Yeah.
Is that big enough for you, Steve? Or do we need it bigger?
I think that'll work. So maybe I'll give the background because I gave this prompt to Plutarch. Enoch Powell. He was born, I don't know, I think probably 1910, 1912, 1920, something like that. Brilliant man. Absolutely brilliant. He knew about 4 or 5 languages. He became a professor at the age of 25. He went to Australia to become a professor. That was right before World War II. Then he was only there for about a year. Then he came back and he joined the British Armed Forces. He wanted to go into combat, but they needed him for his language skills. So he was a translator. He ended up working in India, I think, during the end of the war or something. He was absolutely, fully supportive of the British Empire and their control of the world at the time. He was not really conservative. I mean, he had some views of women and homosexuals and things like that were not consistent with the conservative position. But he was elected, and he was in the House of Commons, so he became a politician. But smart guy. So, you want to go from here?
All right. So, the speech is frequently known as the Rivers of Blood speech, although he never actually does say that, as the note here says. The quote here is given at the end of the speech, so I'll just read it at the end. I'm going to read it. There are versions of it that have been read, but we don't want to get copyright struck, so you're going to have to listen to this in my American accent and not a proper received British accent. Okay. The supreme function of statesmanship is to provide against preventable evils. In seeking to do so, it encounters obstacles which are deeply rooted in human nature. One is that by the very order of things, such evils are not demonstrable until they have occurred. At each stage in their onset, there is room for doubt and for dispute, whether they be real or imaginary. By the same token, they attract little attention in comparison with current troubles, which are both indisputable and pressing. Whence, the besetting of temptation of all politics to concern itself with the immediate present at the expense of the future. Above all, people are disposed to mistake predicting troubles for causing troubles, and even for desiring troubles. If only, they love to think, if only people wouldn't talk about it, it probably wouldn't happen. Now, I want to stop here because we talk about the future a lot here on this channel, don't we?
Sure.
And we have had people in our comments and elsewhere accuse us of exactly this. Well, if you just wouldn't talk about it, then it won't happen. And if the ostrich sticks its head in the sand, the hunter won't find it. Right? Right, guys, right?
Right.
Sure.
Why do we talk about the future? Because most evils are preventable. Now, I've also said that we here are consigned to the idea that we cannot prevent all of the future evils, and that maybe we shouldn't. Maybe some of these evils are necessary to learn to relearn our place in this world. But you know, I can be accused of being a stupid accelerationist. But at the end of the day, you cannot stop what you do not see. And I think that's what he's talking about. Going to talk about the rest of the way through, isn't he, Steve?
Yeah.
And this is the problem with particularly democracies and republics. Everything revolves around so much on the immediate to get a voter base around your issues. Most people are not long-term thinkers, so you're going after the masses and crafting policy to please the masses of their short-term gains and goals and thinking. Perhaps it's not the best type of government for a people for long-term thinking projects and goals.
Well, I would say that since the 19th Amendment, we no longer have a representative democracy or a representative republic. We have a representative democracy. Representative democracy is really just a tyranny of the majority with extra steps. Where a representative republic, you would vote for people who are mentally equipped to think about the future, and you go off and you tell them that's what you're supposed to do so that I can take care of my present. But we don't have that today, and we haven't since the 19th.
What about the 18th? I think that's the 18th. The popular election of senators. Is that the
No, is that the
18th or 20th?
Prohibition was the 20th, I think. Sorry.
No,
could
the
be wrong.
18th. The 18th was the prohibition. So Steve
I
must
was
have
right. I shouldn't doubt myself.
I don't know which one it was, but you see, the popular election of senators also put that in the hands of the people, which now included the women. Prior to that, it was a different function. It was a group. The senators were appointed by the state legislatures.
Correct.
So it was a different power group. So now all power has been centralized theoretically in the voters, but the voters most of them are dumb shits.
Well, okay.
There's no check and balance on the voters.
By the way, Steve, it was the 17th Amendment ratified in 1913.
Okay.
So 1913, what a fascinating year for the fall of the United States. Look at that, guys. So the interesting thing about that is all of these. So you've got all these people over here, and they're now voting, and we now have a representative democracy. And then things start falling apart. Look, the Great Depression is in these people's future. Like the fall apart happened pretty quick. And as Elena mentioned on her stream last week, I've been forcing her to sit through Band of Brothers. She does not like this show at all. She doesn't like it. Well, that's because you're a man. She watches all the men die and wants to cry, which I understand, but she needs to watch it to understand. The interesting thing about that war is that it was a giant coming together. It was a giant reformation of the U.S. system, and that papered over a lot of the problems with many of these amendments that were passed prior to the Great Depression. The 17th, the 19th, even the 18th. If you want to talk about prohibition, all of these, they did eventually remove prohibition, of course, but there was a point in there where America, and here's the thing, even in the 1940s, the U.S. understood that there needed to be long-term planning, which is why we did the Marshall Plan after the war, which is why I think Patton was right and we should have gone further. But that was operating on the inertia of what came before these amendments. FDR was born long before these amendments were passed. Eisenhower, born long before these amendments were passed. They knew a world where this is how democracy, quote unquote, actually worked. Now we see the totality of what it actually is. So there you go. Repeal the 19th and repeal the 17th. There you go, guys. There's two to repeal now. Hey, did we just do another idea? All right. I'll continue reading now. Perhaps this habit goes back to the primitive belief that the word and the thing, the name and the object are identical, which, by the way, is something that you see in people of 90 IQ, who are the people that you have to pander to as a 105 IQ person seeking elected office. Just saying. There's some IQ in this. At all events, the discussion of future grave, but with effort now, avoidable evils is the most unpopular and at the same time the most necessary occupation for the politician. Those who knowingly shirk it deserve, and not infrequently receive, the curses of those who come after. A week or two ago, I fell into conversation with a constituent, a middle-aged, quite ordinary working man, employed in one of our nationalized industries. After a sentence or two about the weather, he suddenly said, "If I had the money to go, I wouldn't stay in this country." I made some deprecatory reply to the effect that even this government wouldn't last forever, but he took no notice and continued, "I have 3 children, all of them been through grammar school, and 2 of them married now with family. I shan't be satisfied till I have seen them all settled overseas. In this country, in 20 or 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man. Now, I decided not to edit that on purpose. This is me recounting a speech here. However, I would point to, well, A, it did take a little longer than this guy thought. And it wasn't really, well, actually, yeah. But look at Britain now. Look at it. Look at the state of it. He was right. This old working man, a nobody.
I want to say this man wasn't necessarily racist. Okay, this on the surface, this sounds all racist. Well, 1968, this is post-World War II. What happened in World War II? Men died. Lots and lots of young men died. Okay, they needed to rebuild the country. Even UK was kind of devastated. They needed people to work. So what did the UK do? They opened up to bring in people from the British Empire. So they came in. Where did they come from? A lot of them came from India, Pakistan, Bahamas. These people that came in were darker skinned, but they were actually British citizens. So he's saying that, okay, we're bringing all these people in who are not English. The not English are going to have the whip hand over the English peoples. And I think, understood in that context, you could say maybe this man wasn't entirely racist.
I think people forget the size of the British Empire sometimes. I mean, it was literally true that for what, like 100 years, the sun never set on the British Empire. Like, this thing was huge and covered all corners of the world.
Do you know Irish have a saying about that?
What?
An Irish will say, you know why the sun never set on the British Empire? Because God didn't trust him in the dark.
Nick, is that you chuckling over there, I hear?
Yeah.
Nick and I both have Irish blood, so we're just kind of chuckling at that over here.
I think it is. It's kind of, there is some truth in that.
Okay. I will continue. I can already hear the chorus of execration. That's not a word I've used before. How dare I say such a horrible thing? How dare I stir up trouble and inflame feelings by repeating such a conversation? Same could be said of me for repeating it here. The answer is that I do not have the right not to do so. Here is a decent, ordinary fellow Englishman who in broad daylight in my own town says to me, his member of parliament, that his country will not be worth living in for his children. I simply do not have the right to shrug my shoulders and think about something else. What he is saying, thousands and hundreds of thousands are saying and thinking, not throughout Great Britain, perhaps, but in the areas that are already undergoing the total transformation to which there is no parallel in 1,000 years of English history. In 15 or 20 years, on present trends, there will be in this country 3.5 million Commonwealth immigrants and their descendants. So, Steve, you were saying that these were British citizens or subjects of the empire. Yes, he is. Yeah. He is very explicitly saying that here. These are not people who, these are not the people that Britain currently allows in.
Correct.
That is not my figure. That is the official figure given to Parliament by the spokesman of the Register General's office. There is no comparable official figure for the year 2000, but it must be in the region of 5 to 7 million, approximately 1/10 of the whole population, and approaching that of Greater London. The actual number in year 2000 ended up being higher than that. Of course, he couldn't have known that 32 years in advance, but that's how crazy things have gotten over there. Of course,
more than 10%.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, it will not be evenly distributed from Margate to, I can't say that, Aberystwyth, and from Penzance to Aberdeen. Whole areas, towns, and parts of towns across England will be occupied by sections of the immigrant and immigrant-descended population. As time goes on, the portion of this total who are immigrant descendants, those born in England, who arrived here by exactly the same route as the rest of us, will rapidly increase. Already, by 1985, the native-born would constitute the majority. It is this fact which creates the extreme urgency of action now, of just that kind of action which is hardest for politicians to take. Action where the difficulties lie in the present, but the evils to be prevented or minimized lie several parliaments ahead. Does this not sound like today, gentlemen?
Yep. And we're not far behind here in the US.
No.
At all.
No, we're not. The natural and rational first question with a nation confronted by such a prospect is to ask, how can its dimensions be reduced? Oh, look. Granted, it be not wholly preventable, can it be limited, bearing in mind that numbers are of the essence. The significance and consequences of an alien element introduced into a country or population are profoundly different according to whether that element is 1% or 10%. The answers to this simple and rational question are equally simple and rational. By stopping or virtually stopping further inflow and by promoting the maximum outflow. Both answers are part of the official policy of the Conservative Party. I just want to note that what may have been when he was giving the speech, that is very definitely not true today. In fact, I've been following my British podcasts, and they are having a bit of a mind fuck over the fact that it looks like it's going to be Labor that stems the tide and not the Conservative Party. It's been quite a week for the Brits, to be honest. It almost passes belief that at this moment, 20 or 30 additional immigrant children are arriving from overseas in Wolverhampton alone every week. And that means 15 or 20 additional families a decade or two hence. To whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. We must be mad, literally mad, as a nation to be permitting the annual inflow of some 50,000 dependents, who are, for the most part, the material of the future growth of the immigrant-descended population. It is like watching a nation busily engaged in heaping up its own funeral pyre. So insane are we that we actually permit unmarried persons to immigrate for the purpose of founding a family with spouses and fiancés whom they have never seen, let no one suppose that the flow of dependents will actually tail off. On the contrary, even at the present admission rate of only 5,000 a year by voucher, there is sufficient for a further 25,000 dependents per annum ad infinitum, without taking into account the huge reservoir of existing relations in this country. And I am making no allowance at all for fraudulent entry.
Yeah.
In these circumstances, nothing will suffice but that the total inflow for settlement should be reduced at once to negligible proportions, and that the necessary legislative and administrative measures be taken without delay. Well, we certainly see people crying out for that on Twitter. And in fact, okay, I'm going to stop here for a second because there are things to say. Last week, President Trump gave an interview with Laura Ingraham. Now, I'm sure many of you guys have all seen the clip where Laura says, you know, Trump is talking about building industry in the United States, and Laura Ingraham says, look, you know, all these companies fired all these people, you know, surely we can go to the American people to find workers or to find American talent. And surely we have American talent here. I'm sorry, guys, I'm paraphrasing. Do I have the actual? Here, let me poke through my. I'm looking to see if I got the actual clip bookmarked or not. I've had to bookmark so many things lately. Looks like I missed it. Anyway, it's basically this clip of Trump, you know, and so she says, well, okay, so clearly you can find the talent that we need here. We have the talent we need here. We have the talent we need here. And he goes, or no, you don't, is the exact answer he gives. No, you don't. So she says, surely the talent is here. And he says, no, you don't. The Democrats.
In the face.
Yes.
And how many people are graduating and can't find jobs in STEM fields right now because of H-1B?
It's like half of them. They have to go find work elsewhere.
Okay. I'll call bull crap and what a slap in the face.
This is the same interview where he said we needed to increase Chinese visas, increase student visas to Chinese people to 600,000. More spies. Yeah. Let's just make our national security problem worse. I mean, these are people trying to import biological plagues, agricultural plagues into the United States because, I mean, the number coming from China on any visa should be zero. I could explain how the MSS does its surveillance, but I could say the words, but Americans can't hear them. It is the concept is so foreign. It is literally alien. But here's the thing. In Ohio right now, a Democrat named Amy Acton is currently running away with the governorship race over Vivek Ramaswamy. And she is doing it by constantly airing ads that basically are just a screenshot of his tweet of December 26, 2024, in which he crashes out and calls Americans, you know, lazy and stupid. And she's beating in a Republican plus 10 state. She's beating him by 15 points, I think was the last one I saw.
And he's not Christian, so there you go.
Trump just did the same thing. He's lost the midterms, guys. The Democrats are going to play that clip of him with Ingram saying, "Nope, Americans
so
are
Democrats going to be the Labor Party again."
Maybe, who knows?
Back to something that they can actually win with instead of this crap.
The Republicans are vacating the hill. They are ceding this ground to the Democrats. So here's the thing: Trump's already lost the midterms. That's done. No human, no president in history has ever said what President Trump said and won any further electoral contest. There is, and some of the MAGA people pointed this out, if he were to actually not just walk back his statements, but do things like ban Chinese student visas, he could kill the OPT program with an executive order because it was created by executive order. It's not law. And he could severely curtail the H-1B pipeline. He could say, because Congress only specifies a maximum, it doesn't specify a minimum. He could say, we're just not approving H-1Bs this year. And that would be perfectly within congressional remit as the law stands today. And so people were like, yeah, okay, if he does those things, we'll vote for Republicans again in the midterms. But Mark Mitchell, he's Rasmussen Reports, he's a pollster. He lets people DM him on Twitter, and he's basically said the same thing. Yes, we're a year away, but he said, look, at this point, it's a rout for Republicans. There's no coming back from this. They're done. Because what happened, according to the polling data, what happened in 2020 in the voting in 2024 was you had a bunch of center leftists who didn't like the immigration, and they didn't like the transing of the kids. They did not agree with those points in the Democratic Party. They crossed over to vote for Trump. And Trump just called the union guys talentless hacks. Trump just called software engineers talentless hacks. Okay. He's done. It's over. His base is destroyed.
Here's the thing. Trump is partially right. We don't have the talent here. The answer is not to import the talent, because our people are smart enough. They are. First thing you need to do is get rid of the new math in schools. Go back to the old kind of math that I learned when I was in school.
That's what I had.
Because new math is crap. Then you have to go back to phonics to teach reading, because younger people can't read because they're using the see-say method, and they're looking at a word and they're recognizing the word by the picture. They cannot sound out a word. This is early training in getting your brain to work. So we need to develop the talent here. And how do you know that I'm right? Because most of the H-1Bs that come over here are young people.
Junior slots. Yeah, it's most H-1Bs.
Junior people. They don't have the skills either. They just have a better developed mind from the education. But, I thought the U.S. has the best education system and best universities. Yeah, maybe in some areas. But most people are not that smart going to universities, and most of them are worthless degrees.
I need to push back on two things on you, actually.
Okay.
First, so Trump likes to say, we need to bring in people to teach Americans how to do things. All of that is based on one event, and that event was TSMC, that is the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, is building a fab in Arizona, a fabrication plant for chips. They came in with the Chinese mentality and tried to run the project as in the Chinese cultural way, which is when the project starts going behind, you get out and you whip your people and you tell them what to do. It's very top-down controlled. It's very much I say you do. I am boss, you are slave. Okay. And the project kept falling behind and behind. And so the TSMC arrived at this opinion of, clearly these Americans just don't know what they're doing. And so they tried to bring over a bunch of temporary work under the L1 program. They were stopped from doing so. The L1 and as B1 tourist visas, they were prevented from doing so, which then forced them to actually work with the Americans. The project is actually now back on track because it turned out that there were significant misunderstandings about the engineering that needed to happen to make this project actually work. And once they sat down and were forced to work with the Americans on in this case, the unions, construction unions working on the project, forced to actually explain themselves, the unions were able to go, you need this. And they were able to figure out how to do the project to American standards of safety and engineering on time. And that project is now back on track. It is now,
contrary to popular opinion, union labor is actually quite smart in the construction trades and knowing how to get things done. And every worker out there in a good union operation cares about the quality and his legacy of what he's building. Now, yes, we've all heard horror stories about various unions, but in general, our union tradesmen who are in the construction industry are pretty skilled people. Yes, there can be corruption on top of that, but that happens everywhere.
Yeah. So that was thing one. And the other thing, you were talking about education. So we actually have data on this. The test that's, I don't have it.
Spicy.
Yes, Nick. Well, it's not just that. We actually, so everyone says, oh, the U.S. education system is so bad compared to those other education systems. Well, Steve, could it possibly be that perhaps those numbers were dragged down by a certain set of laws that have an acronym that consists of the letters C, R, and A? I'm trying to say something without saying it. So what happened was somebody actually sat down and did the study, and they broke down the test results of college graduates by ethnicity. If you take out it, okay, fuck, I have to say this. If you just do white men, the American education system dominates the entire world, and it is not even close. Believe it or not, white women come in shortly thereunder. The reason our education system tests so badly is not because, now, I'm not saying our education system hasn't fucked things up. They have. And yet somehow men are able to work around it anyway and beat the pants off of Asians. And I'm very specifically, because everyone talks about Asians as how they're taking over No. The Asian education system is so wrapped up on memorization that they don't think at all.
There is something about the English civilization in America, really is a branch of the English civilization. We are very innovative people. We're problem solvers. So the people who built industry, the English, the Germans, pretty much Northern Europeans, Scandinavians, Danes,
even the French.
The French, that group are vastly innovative thinkers. And for most of their progression of civilization, there wasn't formal education. Yet they advanced.
Formal education is actually where innovation goes to die, but that's a whole different stream. So I don't buy the narrative. And well, yes, Andrew, we are having the trouble finding the will to solve the problem. But
it's not that we can't solve the problem, it's the will to solve the problem. But
we will get there. When is harder to say, but we will get there. And the thing is that I look at all this data and I go, I desperately don't want to believe it's true. You know, we all want to believe, we're all raised to believe that all humans are, are equal under, the eyes of God, and that we're all, but it's as Nick says, we're of equal dignity under God.
Yep.
But that does not mean that we are of equal capability under God.
Correct.
And that's just is what it is. And so Trump is out here. His entire narrative about needing to import talent is based on a misunderstanding, a cultural misunderstanding between two cultures, an Asian culture and a Western culture. And once they were forced to clear up that understanding, things are back on track. They were able to not just reverse, not just stop the slowdown, but bring the schedule back in line already. They've recovered all what they lost. They will probably actually finish early at this rate, because for one of the few times in history, a foreign culture was forced to come to the United States and explain themselves in enough detail that Americans got it. And so in general, you can look at that, say, well, we need these other cultures to come explain themselves. Okay, here, I'm going to keep going on this because this one drives me fucking insane. We need so Trump's narrative is that we need Taiwanese people to come explain to us how how to build chips, particularly the small nanometer chips, your 3s and 4s and 5s. Here's the thing, though.
Yeah, that doesn't require a whole lot of people, does it?
It doesn't, but they do have to be smart and knowledgeable, like the machines. So there's this TSMC uses a process called EUV. Is a new machine type from ASML called high NA, high numerical aperture EUV. These machines cost more than a Boeing 747. They're $400 to $450 million a piece. 2 of them currently sit in Intel's research fabrication plant in Hillsboro, Oregon. Right here in the United States. TSMC has 0 of these machines. Intel essentially created the process that we use today, the fundamentals of it. Do not tell me that there are not engineers in the United States who don't know how to build chip. Intel has fired a lot of chip designers and replaced them with H-1Bs. Those guys, for the most part, no longer work in the chip designing industry. They work elsewhere. We have a pool of engineers today who understand all of the basics and can get up and running on a high NA over a long weekend, a 48-hour weekend course in how to run these things, because they already know all of the principles. Why? Because they fucking designed them themselves. Okay. That is what Trump is saying doesn't exist. And that is how you use it. Go ahead.
If needed, if this is a matter of national security, Trump can just say, hey, Intel, you're opening your doors. You're going to bring in 100 people and you're going to train them on these machines because this is essential.
Well, government owns 10% of Intel.
Well, okay. How the hell did the U.S. win World War II? They nationalized all the industries and says, you're working for us now.
So, SpaceX.
Everything is within his power.
Plutarch's made this point similar to what Steve is saying. Why is SpaceX all Americans?
Oh, because under ITAR, they're not allowed to hire foreigners. That ITAR is International Trafficking and Arms Regulations. Because rockets are classified as dual-use technology. The Falcon 9 can be used to lob nukes.
So we can build all these rockets and crap, but we can't have people at a crash course on chips or train people on how to do these chips.
Well, according to Trump, we can. We just need to import Infinity visas to do it.
But we could do freaking SpaceX without them.
Don't talk about that. Elon does not like it when you talk about that. He will actually ban you off Twitter if you bring it up in his presence.
Really?
I watched that. Oh yeah, no, I watched that happen during the great Christmas H-1B war. He had people were getting banned for bringing up the SpaceX. It did what it did entirely without H-1Bs. Oh yeah, no, that's an actual thing. That's what I'm saying, Nick. Don't bring that up on Twitter. You can get banned for it for saying that. Not that bothers Nick much, but so yes,
I am a walking target for canceling. It's just what it is. I've come to terms with it.
Right. And so what this all comes down to, this whole argument, at least in the United States, is not about immigration or any of that, about the values of immigration. And we're a nation of immigrants. No, because as Alex says, this is what it's all about. The contractors do not want to pay a fair American wage. You're right, they don't. That's it. And we have mountains of data confirming this. Yes, Alex, you can, and you'll get 1/10 of the work. Ask me how I know.
Okay,
I've had to carry those people.
There's some history here. In the U.S., we have this idea that, you got to take things away from the government and put it in private hands so you get efficiency. It hasn't always been so. Maybe somewhat in the U.S., but not in Europe. The rail system in Britain was publicly owned, and it operated quite well. They privatized it, sold it off. It's gone to shit. There's a lot of factors here. Why can China build high-speed rail? It's government owned. They just make it happen because it's long-term investment, and it doesn't have to pay back in 8 to 10 years. So, we have built like Tennessee Valley Authority, all those dams, those were not private. Those were public. The Hoover Dam was public. So thinking that private industry can do all these things, it's not true. Sometimes big ventures need to be government owned and funded and directed, because if it's for the national security, the national future, they have a long-term, government can take a long-term view, whereas private industry cannot.
I think I would reframe it a little bit. The purpose of government is to take on projects that are of national security interest, which means that there is much that can be left to private hands.
Well, absolutely. I'm not a socialist here.
Right. None of us are. We're actually fairly libertarian in our leanings, but there are some projects for which giving them over to private, where if giving them over to private corporations means giving them over to foreign countries, like say through the H-1B program, means that you have now created a national security issue, then the solution to the national security problem is to take away that thing and say, no, you cannot have that anymore. We are now going to impose rules on you about what you can do. This is where places like Intel, and people are going to say, the government already owns 10% of Intel. Okay, but the government starts dictating terms to Intel and it's all going to go to shit. Well, that depends on what terms are dictated. If the government comes in and says, look, you have to go back and hire all of those American chip engineers that you fired, nothing bad will happen to Intel. In fact, Intel might finally get out of the doldrums they've been in. Okay. right? But if the government comes in and says, well, we need you to build build us the one chip where that everyone has to use, the one CPU that everyone has to use. And by the way, you need to slip this back door into it. ECDBRG. Anyway, there's a whole story about there, and I might have just flagged myself with a certain 3-letter agency for bringing that one up. Okay. Then yes, now you have a socialism problem. But if the government comes in and says, no, your hiring of H-1Bs represents a clear and present threat to the United States, so we're going to take that ability away from you, that is well within the remit of the Constitution in the United States. Being a private corporation does not absolve one of duty to country, of duty to nation. And we kind of treat these private multinational corps as if they are absolved of any duty to any one country. And the answer is no. You are an American company domiciled here in the United States, and the bulk of your sales are to the United States market. I think it's perfectly legitimate for a government to say, if you are not willing to abide by our rules, you are not allowed to sell here. Does that mean American companies could then be kicked out of places like France and Germany? Sure, absolutely. You know what? It would also mean we would do it to them too. Oh, BMW, sorry about your life. You're getting removed from America now. Everyone says, oh, they'll do it, but no one's actually sat down and done the game theory on it. Okay, Ford loses a few sales in Germany, and we destroy a major pillar of the German economy if they try it. They won't do it. And so this idea that bad things will happen if we change the system is kayfabe. Do I need to keep reading? Have we beat this one to death enough?
Yeah, you need to keep reading.
Okay. I turn to re-emigration. If all immigration ended tomorrow, the rate of growth of the immigrant and the immigrant-descended population would be substantially reduced. But the prospective size of this element in the population would still leave the basic character of the national danger unaffected. This can only be tackled while a considerable proportion of the total still comprises persons who entered this country during the last 10 years or so. Hence the urgency of implementing now the second element of the Conservative Party's policy, the encouragement of re-emigration. We now today call this remigration, but his English is more technically correct. Nobody can make an estimate of the numbers which, with generous assistance, would choose to either return to their countries of origin or to go to other countries anxious to receive the manpower and skills they represent. Nobody knows because no such policy has yet been attempted, and to this day has not been attempted. I can only say that even at present, immigrants in my own constituency from time to time come to me asking if I can find them assistance to return home. If such a policy were adopted and pursued with the determination which the gravity of the alternative justifies, the resultant outflow could appreciably alter the prospects. And I do want to point out that the Trump administration is offering $1,000 for people to log into the app and leave voluntarily. I would say $5,000 to $10,000 would be justified. I'd be happy to pay the tax freight on that. But so like, somebody somewhere in Trump's admin read Enoch Powell, which is interesting. Clearly, they just don't matter enough to have Trump's ear and tell him that he shat in the punch bowl last week. The third element of the Conservative Party's policy is that all who are in this country as citizens should be equal before the law, and that there shall be no discrimination or difference made between them by public authority. As Mr. Heath has put it, we will have no first-class citizens and second-class citizens. This does not mean that the immigrant and his descendants should be elevated into a privileged or special class, or that the citizen should be denied his right to discriminate in the management of his own affairs between one fellow citizen and another, or that he should be subjected to the imposition as to his reasons and motives for behaving in one lawful manner rather than another. This is a straight shot at, in the United States, we'd call it the Civil Rights Act. I don't know what they call it in Britain.
Correct.
I'm sure my British friends will fill me in on the relevant details in the comments. But this, and we can see now today the effects of. Somebody on Twitter said this. I don't have it saved, but it was just flying by. And he said, "Oh yeah, the Civil Rights Act has become a second constitution to the United States." And I was thinking about that, going, "Yeah, actually, it kind of has." Because you can say anything is racist and poof, that thing can no longer be done. I'm kind of surprised they haven't tried to say the Second Amendment is racist, although I think it's coming.
I guess Enoch Powell didn't agree with DEI or diversity is our strength.
I'm guessing no. Just by reading this. There could be no grosser misconception of the realities than is entertained by those who vociferously demand legislation, as they call it, against discrimination, whether they be leader writers of the same kidney and sometimes on the same newspapers, which year after year in the 1930s tried to blind this country to the rising peril which confronted it, or archbishops who live in palaces faring delicately with the bedclothes pulled right over their heads. They have got it exactly and diametrically wrong. The discrimination and the deprivation, the sense of alarm and of resentment, lies not with the immigrant population, but with those among whom they have come and are still coming. This is why to enact legislation of the kind before Parliament at this moment is to risk throwing a match onto gunpowder. The kindest thing that can be said about those who propose and support it is that they know not what they do. And I could say, looking back, they did not know what they did. And now we have an entire generation who has come to say things on Twitter like remigration is the gentle option. Is the centrist option. It's the nice option.
Yeah.
But nobody wants a Liberia.
You mean, well, but see, okay, somebody brought that up recently. Liberia has a constitution that is functionally similar to the US Constitution. Yet Liberia is a failed state. So there must be something more than simple law that differentiates the results of the two. We have actually run an A/B test or a blind study, like a control group study. Like, we've actually done that. It's called Liberia. It failed miserably because it is not the documents and the laws that make a country. It is not the economic zone that makes the country. It is what, guys? What makes a country?
The people.
Thank you.
Wait, is it the language? What's the official language of Liberia?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Steve. That would be English.
Oh, yeah. I knew that. Trump got that wrong. He didn't know there were any countries in Africa with the official English as their official language. Yes, it's Liberia. And what's the capital of Liberia? Monrovia.
Oh, God. Yeah, Monrovia. Yeah, it's just on the tip of my tongue.
After a U.S.
Monroe.
president. Yes.
After President Monroe. Oh, yeah. So clearly all we need to do is have a series of documents and an economy, and that's what makes a nation. We have run a scientifically valid test in this world within the last 100 years, and the answer was conclusively, you are wrong. And what's interesting is up until the point of Liberia and its failure, people in the United States and immigration was largely like the NGO problem that we have. These weren't problems. All of a sudden, Liberia fails, and all of the how do I put this? All of the people who tried to make Liberia work turned on the United States and said, well, if we can't make it work there, we're gonna make our vision work here. Fascinating little, if you go trace the history on that, it's a fascinating little aside. Nothing is more misleading than comparison between the Commonwealth immigrant in Britain and the American can't say that word. The can't say that word population of the United States, which was already in existence before the United States became a nation, started literally as slaves, and were later given the franchise and other rights of citizenship, to the exercise of which they have only gradually and still incompletely come. The Commonwealth immigrant came to Britain as a full citizen to a country which knew no discrimination between one citizen and another, and he entered instantly into the possession of the rights of every citizen, from the vote to free treatment under the National Health Service. Whatever drawbacks attended the immigrants arose not from the law or from public policy or from administration, but from those personal circumstances and accidents which cause, and always will cause, the fortunes and experience of one man to be different from another's. Okay, he actually just said what we said, but in a better, much more British English way of saying it. It is not about the administration or the public policy or the votes, or even in their case, the National Health Services, but the fortunes and experiences of one man. You're not going to make, you can't have the United States as a blend of the entire world, as an economic zone for the entire world, because there will be no United States.
Okay, this just brings up the old, is it nurture or nature? Well, maybe a little bit of both. Because different ethnic groups have different general traits. Okay, that's true. But they also have a culture. And that culture is very important. And that culture is something you can't really define. So I think it's a combination of kind of the ethnic makeup. Because certainly we can say Asians are much better at rote memorization and raw math skills. But innovation, well, seems like the Northern Europeans kind of have that down. But again, the cultures of the countries are different. So you can't say it's an absolute, well, it's a conclusion. No, it's both.
You know, Alex, that is a fascinating question. I love that you asked that. I'm just going to leave that in the chat for other people to discover, because reasons. Actually, no, here, we'll pull it up. Remigration, no. How is the left going to expand and get people to vote for them? Well, yes. I mean, and that is what I don't think that the left, when they started down this path, I don't think that's what they were thinking. I don't think they understood it, but I think as I don't think it was conscious on their part before they started. I think it was an emergent property that they realized that they could leverage later. Because if you look at the history of Britain and its moves that way, and even our history, most of the actual leverage of this is 30, 40 years later. It's not an immediate thing. This idea of come to America, vote Democrat, we'll give you free shit. That wasn't even really much of a thing in the 90s. there was some of it, but it was only just getting going. And Hart Cellar was 30 years before that. So it took them some time to realize that these would be things that they could actually do. Of course, now it's become built into the structure of our policy systems and our government in general. But that took time. That did not happen overnight. Okay, continuing. But while to the immigrant, entry into this country was admission to privileges and opportunities eagerly sought, the impact upon the existing population was very different. For reasons which they could not comprehend, and in pursuance of a decision by default on which they were never consulted, they found themselves made strangers in their own country. They found their wives unable to attain hospital beds in childbirth, their children unable to obtain school places, and their homes and neighborhoods changed beyond recognition. Their plans and prospects for the future defeated. At work, they found that employers hesitated to apply to the immigrant worker the standards of discipline and competence required of the native-born worker. They began to hear, as time went by, more and more voices which told them that they were now the unwanted. They now learned that a one-way privilege is to be established by act of Parliament, a law which cannot and is not intended to operate to protect them or redress their grievances, is to be enacted to give the stranger, the disgruntled, and the agent provocateur the power to pillory them for their private actions. This speech was also given before the CRA was passed in the 70s, if I recall. So this was given before then. I'm looking it up now. Yeah, the CRA was 77. So this was given 9 years before that happened. But he's talking about exactly what has happened and what would happen. He very clearly saw the future of what was going on here.
Okay, this last statement. The power to pillory them for their private actions. I just heard someone say annually about 20,000 Britons are jailed per year for social media posts.
That is official police statistics from the UK, yes.
Is that okay? A pillory, for those who don't know, that was a post or a stanchion people were chained to and then whipped. So yes,
not always that, but yeah.
I mean, it was kind of it was a thing of discipline.
Yes.
Right.
A whip was not necessarily always involved, though.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
so now people are being disciplined for being disgruntled about not having a future or a job or not being able to get a house or their daughters or wives not being able to walk down the street without being accosted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Plutarch, the Civil Rights Act was 1964.
Sorry, you're right. I got the wrong one. There's multiple CRAs in our history.
And this was going on during the whole Rhodesia controversy, too, when the speech was written, which is kind of interesting. So,
apparently, the internet really wants me to think that the CRA was actually the Community Reinvestment Act, and I just whiffed, guys. All right.
Okay.
However,
that's why there's three of us. We correct each other as needed.
Go read the Community Reinvestment Act. It is that.
Yeah.
So I was wrong, and yet still managed to land roughly where we're going anyway. Okay, continuing on. In the hundreds upon hundreds of letters I received when I last spoke on this subject 2 or 3 months ago, there was one striking feature which was largely new and which I find ominous. All members of Parliament are used to the typical anonymous correspondent. But what surprised and alarmed me was the high proportion of ordinary, decent, sensible people writing a rational and often well-educated letter who believed that they had to omit their address because it was dangerous to have committed themselves to paper to a member of parliament agreeing with the views I had expressed, and that they would risk penalties or reprisals if they were known to have done so. The sense of being a persecuted minority, which is growing amongst ordinary English people in the areas of the country which are affected, is something that those without direct experience can hardly imagine. I'm going to allow just one of those hundreds of people to speak for me. And I do want to say something about this because, yes, gentlemen and listeners, there is a reason I do not put my face on the internet. There's a reason that I am so hard on Elena, when wandering around with a camera. And this is it. I am a persecuted minority. And the anonymity of not putting my face on the internet allows me to continue to have somewhat of a life outside of the internet, because we certainly don't make any money from this.
And it's too late for me.
Right, yeah. So, okay. This is the contents of the letter that he received. I will read it out. 8 years ago, in a respectable street in Wolverhampton, a house was sold to a, can't say that word on the internet. Now, only one white, old age pensioner lives there. This is her story. She lost her husband and both her sons in the war. So she turned her 7-roomed house, her only asset, into a boarding house. She worked hard and did well, paid off her mortgage, and began to put something by for her old age. Then the immigrants moved in. With growing fear, she saw one house after another taken over. The quiet street became a place of noise and confusion. Regretfully, her white tenants, were moved out. The day after the last one left, she was awakened at 7 a.m. by 2, can't say that word on the internet, who wanted to use her phone to contact their employer. When she refused, as she would have refused any stranger at such hour, she was abused and feared she would have been attacked but for the chain on her door. Immigrant families have tried to rent rooms in her house, but she always refused. Her little store of money went, and after paying rates, taxes, in paying rates that's their term for property taxes. She has less than 2 per week. She went to apply for a rate reduction and was seen by a young girl who, on hearing she had a 7-roomed house, suggested that she should rent part of it. When she said the only people she could get were, can't say that word on the internet, the girl said, racial prejudice won't get you anywhere in this country. So she went home. The telephone is her lifeline. Her family pay the bill and help her out as best they can. Immigrants have offered to buy her house at a price which the prospective landlord would be able to recover from his tenant in weeks or at most a few months. She is becoming afraid to go out. Windows are broken. She finds excreta pushed through her mailbox. When she goes to the shop, she is followed by children, charming, wide-grinning pickaninnies.
I don't know if you can say that word.
Okay, well, sorry.
Too late.
They cannot speak English, but one word they know. Racialist, they chant. When the new race relations bill is passed, this woman is convinced she will go to prison. And is she so wrong? I begin to wonder. The other dangerous delusion from which those who are willfully or otherwise blind to the reality suffer is summed up in the word integration. To be integrated into a population means to become, for all practical purposes, indistinguishable from its other members. Now, at all times, where there are marked physical differences, especially of color, integration is difficult, though over a period not impossible. There are among the Commonwealth immigrants who have come to live here in the last 15 years, many thousands of whose wish and purpose is to be integrated and whose every thought and endeavor is bent in that direction. But to imagine that such a thing centers the heads of a great and growing majority of immigrants and their descendants is a ludicrous misconception and a dangerous one. And this is kind of the Mott and Bailey of the pro-immigration argument. They're saying, well, but there are immigrants who have come here and have immigrated or integrated successfully. So then we have to open our doors and let all of them in? No, those are two different arguments. You can argue for a limited immigration where you are heavily vetted for your desire to integrate. And that's an argument that even I am willing to entertain. But that is not the system we have today. We have a permissive system. And you say, you ask for permission. And so permissive in legal definition means here, you ask for permission, and then if no reason can be found to deny it, permission is given. Okay, so that's what a permissive system means, is if you are not found to meet a strict set of criteria, another term for it would be if you don't have any strict liability, they can let you in. So that's what he's talking about here, is they basically want to set up a permissive system. We are on the verge here of a change. Hitherto, it has been force of circumstance and of background which has rendered the very idea of integration inaccessible to the greater part of the immigrant population, that they never conceived of or intended such a thing, and that their numbers and physical concentration meant the pressures towards integration, which normally bear upon any small minority, do not operate. And this is a key point. Integration is a process. It takes generations. So typically, it's very difficult for somebody who comes as an adult from one culture to integrate fully into a new culture. That almost never happens. It's usually their children and their children's children who do that, which means then that the number of people that you can invite in at any given time is necessarily very small, because you're not really betting on the people you bring in at that time. You're betting on their children, that they will be able to integrate. So,
and there's a force that's used,
yes,
to do that integration. Do you know what that force is called?
I can think of a number of different forces, but which one are you thinking of?
Discrimination.
Right.
After all, you know what? Both you and Nick have Irish blood.
Do we ever?
You know, the discrimination actually worked to civilize the Irish.
Well, to the point now where, of course, my ancestry is all very heritage. Okay.
I'm making a joke here, but
no. But my point is you can't tell me from another American. I've been here long enough. My ancestry.
I'm a Mayflower baby.
I know, but all immigrants. Okay, why did it work?
But mixed, yeah.
Because the immigrants came in, and by discrimination, they had to conform to the dominant culture. And then once they conformed, they intermarried, and now we can't tell the difference.
Right. That is the pressures towards immigration that he speaks of here. Just the D word is a naughty word on the internet. So we should probably adopt this phraseology, pressures towards integration, as language for that. Okay. I could go with that. Now we are seeing the growth of positive forces acting against integration, of vested interests in the preservation and sharpening of racial and religious differences. We don't see any of that today, with a view to the exercise of actual domination first over fellow immigrants and then over the rest of the population. Oh my. Yeah, tell me this isn't happening in the United States right now. Try to tell me with a straight face. The cloud no bigger than a man's hand that can so rapidly overcast the sky has been visible recently in Wolverhampton and has shown signs of spreading quickly. The words I am about to use verbatim appeared in the local press on 17 February are not mine, but those of a Labour member of Parliament who is a minister in the present government. So for YouTube, this is not me. This was published in a newspaper in 17 February 1968 by a Labour MP. The Sikh community's campaign to maintain customs inappropriate in Britain is much to be regretted. Working in Britain, particularly in the public services, they should be prepared to accept the terms and conditions of their employment. They claim special communal rights, or should I say rights, leads to claim special communal rights leads to a dangerous fragmentation within society. This communalism is a canker. Whether practiced by one color or another, it is to be strongly condemned. All credit to John Stonehouse for having the insight to perceive that and the courage to say it. Yeah. We are a nation, not a hodgepodge of walled off communities. Period. End of discussion. For these dangerous and divisive elements, the legislation proposed in the Race Relations Bill is the very pablum they need to flourish. Here is the means of showing that the immigrator communities can organize to consolidate their members, to agitate and campaign against their fellow citizens, and to overawe and dominate the rest with legal weapons, which the ignorant and the ill-informed have provided. As I look ahead, I am filled with foreboding. Like the Roman, I seem to see the river Tiber foaming with much blood. That tragic and intractable phenomenon, which we watch with horror on the other side of the Atlantic, but which there is interwoven with the history and existence of the states itself, is coming upon us here by our own volition and our own neglect. Indeed, it has all but come. In numerical terms, it will be of American proportions long before the end of the century. Only resolute and urgent action will avert it even now. Whether there will be the public will to demand and obtain that action, I do not know. All I know is that to see and not to speak would be the great betrayal. April 20th, 1968, Enoch Powell.
So right now, of the residents of London, what percentage are English?
Nah. I don't know, but it's not looking good.
You talk about Britain in general, because I can tell you in London it's less than 20%. The Lotus Eaters guys actually did this.
Less than 20% are English
in the city of London. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's getting bad. The capital of the United Kingdom is no longer predominantly inhabited by English people.
That is correct.
Man, they did better than the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think we've fooled ourselves a little bit here, particularly amongst the liberal West, into this idea that we are beyond those sorts of conquests. Vikings did a great job in conquest. And then we promptly forgot what that looks like, and now we are being conquered by people who lack the intelligence to maintain what they have, which says something about, we might have the intelligence, but Good Lord, we do not have the will.
So who's on our side? I mean, when I mean our side, the average guy who sees this and says, yeah, this isn't good. Oh, is it the Democrats?
No.
No. Is it the Republicans?
Lol. No.
Oh. Did you clip that, or do you have that YouTube or that Twitter video? Is it the Catholic bishops?
Well, let's see what we have here. Is that?
No, not that's the proper response. It's the other one. The one you sent me the Twitter of the USCCB comment. We can go to this one later.
The US. Oh, I didn't bookmark that one. I'm gonna have to look it up. Sorry, guys. I didn't.
It's probably on YouTube. It was just last week.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right.
You find it?
Oh.
Special pastoral message on immigration.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, and YouTube does not want to show me this thing.
Okay, well, I got it.
Okay.
I just have to add it.
Our resident Catholic's on top of it.
I'm searching for it, but YouTube really doesn't want to show it to me.
Okay. Let me play this.
Filing and immigration enforcement. We are saddened by the state of contemporary debate and the vilification of immigrants. We are concerned about the conditions in detention centers and the lack of access to pastoral care.
We lament that some immigrants in the United States have arbitrarily lost their legal status. We are troubled by threats against the sanctity of houses of worship and the special nature of hospitals and schools.
We are grieved when we meet parents who fear being detained when taking their children to school, or when we try to console family members who have already been separated from their loved ones.
Despite obstacles and prejudices, generations of immigrants have made enormous contributions to the well-being of our nation. We as Catholic bishops love our country and pray for its peace and prosperity.
For this very reason, we feel compelled now in this environment to raise our voices in defense of God-given human dignity.
Catholic teaching exhorts nations to recognize the fundamental dignity of all persons, including immigrants. We bishops advocate for a meaningful reform of our nation's immigration laws and procedures.
Human dignity and national security are not in conflict. Both are possible if people of good will work together.
We recognize that nations have a responsibility to regulate their borders and establish a just and orderly immigration system for the sake
of the Vatican.
Without such processes, immigrants face the risk of trafficking and other forms of exploitation. Safe and legal pathways serve as an antidote to such risks.
The Church's teaching rests on the foundational concern for the human person as created in the image and likeness of God. As pastors, we look to the sacred scripture and the example of the Lord himself, where we find the wisdom of God's compassion. The priority of the Lord, as the prophet reminds us, is for those who are most vulnerable, the widow, the orphan, the poor.
Oh my
In the Lord Jesus, we see the one who became poor for our sake. We see the Good Samaritan who lifts us from the dust. And we see the one who is found in the least of these. The church's concern for neighbor and our concern here for immigrants is a response to the Lord's command to love as he has loved us.
To our immigrant sisters, we stand with you in your suffering, since when one member suffers, all suffer. You are not alone.
We note with gratitude that so many of our clergy, consecrated religious, and lay faithful already accompany and assist immigrants in meeting their basic human needs. We urge all people of goodwill to continue and expand such efforts.
We oppose the indiscriminate mass deportation of people. We pray for an end to dehumanizing rhetoric and violence, whether directed at immigrants or at law enforcement.
We pray that the Lord may guide the leaders of our nation, and we are grateful for past and present opportunities to dialogue with public and elected officials.
In this dialogue, we will continue to advocate for meaningful immigration reform. As disciples of the Lord, we remain men and women of hope, and hope does not disappoint.
May the mantle of Our Lady of Guadalupe enfold us all in her maternal and loving care and draw us ever closer to the heart of Christ.
Okay, Steve. This is like woke preacher clips material. There's a guy, I don't know, back in like the 2020, 2021 stuff, when everybody's apologizing to all the Black Lives Matter people and all their crap. Okay, look. This is the pussified Roman Catholic Church sold under Marxist woke under philosophy and theology that's taken over Roman Catholic doctrine. This is not the same church that kicked the Muslims' ass out of Europe at the gates of Vienna. This is not the same Catholic Church that sent my ancestor, Richard the Lionheart, into the Holy Land. This is not the same Catholic Church that kicked the Muslims out of Spain in the Reconquista. This is the pussified Roman Catholic Church sold under woke Marxism.
Nick, I can't argue with you. But this same sentiment exists in the Lutheran Church, in the Methodist Church.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of the evangelical churches, probably even the Presbyterian Church.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the same shit everywhere.
And when they pulled that shit, I called them out on that shit years ago, too.
Okay, I want to pull this up from Alex because this is interesting, and it's a data point that's hard for us to get. If you guys were to listen to Spanish news television, the new motto that they use, and remember, a lot of particularly Mexican Spanish are Catholic. Jesus and his worldly parents were immigrants. No. His worldly parents were not immigrants.
Immigrants.
Well, yeah, kind of they were. Because they had to leave Israel and escape to Egypt.
Oh,
so while they were in Egypt, they were immigrants in Egypt. But
okay, yeah.
They were visitors and then they returned.
Yeah, they were
Right?
visitors. Yeah, exactly. They visited and they left. And that's not immigration. That's not immigration. I've visited, I don't want to say which countries I visited. I have gone to countries not named the United States. And you know what I did when I was done there? I went home. So, yeah, and Andrew, this is probably a better way to describe them, but no one wants to call themselves refugees. Okay. So before we move on, I did want to quick put this up there. I said it, but I need to do some receipts here. I said it, but I was reading and I didn't want to take that off. This is Donald Trump speaking earlier today. This was posted at 9:44 Pacific time, November 19th, 2025. Speaking in favor of H-1B visas at today's U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum. That was the forum that I was talking about in Washington, D.C. Get it right. President Donald Trump said, "You can't come in, open up a massive computer chip factory." He's referring to the TSMC factory in Arizona for billions and billions of dollars, like is being done in Arizona, and think you're going to hire people off an unemployment line to run it. They're going to have to bring in thousands of people with them, and I'm going to welcome these people. No. As a matter of fact, we have many, many engineers here in the United States who are being trained by Intel in Portland right now to use machinery that is more complex than what TSMC will be installing in Arizona. I love my conservative friends. I love MAGA, but this is MAGA. One of the underlying things here is that Trump has been trying to say that he is MAGA. And so there is a rift between people who identify with Trump as MAGA versus people who assume that MAGA had to do with the A, which is America. And so you're starting to see a push for an America First thing. Yes, that will be psyoped into oblivion by on both directions, people who don't want it to happen and people who do. Same with the MAGA thing. But at the end of the day, Trump does believe that MAGA is first and foremost Trump. This is going to be a problem in the future because he's going to do like what he does here and what he did in the Laura Ingraham interview and make monumental strategic blunders. It is my firm belief that he loses this upcoming election because I'm going to have to sit through 6 months of ads that are just nothing but him calling Americans talentless hacks, aka listening to that interview over and over and over again, and it'll work with your typical low information voter, and that he gets impeached this first thing the Democrats do in 2027, and then that is the end of all of the other programs that we actually care about, like ICE enforcement and stuff like that, because he'll be too busy defending himself. This was a monumental strategic error, and but it does set up 2029 quite nicely.
Yep, it's our timetable.
Our timetable hasn't changed.
I just pretty much adopted it.
No,
I
let
was
me
convinced.
answer a question that people are asking. Why doesn't somebody do something? Where are the voices of reason? Can you bring up the clip of Bishop Strickland? You had it up briefly before. So Bishop Strickland, this man, the former bishop of the Diocese of Tyler, Texas. Why is he the former bishop? Because Pope Francis relieved him of his duties. So once a bishop, always a bishop. So now he's just a bishop without a diocese. But this man was relieved because you're going to find out why. And you know what, Pastor Nick? You were kind of run out too.
A little bit.
So a lot of the good men are not welcome and they're forced out. So let's hear what Bishop Strickland has to say. I think this interview is from earlier, well, probably before Donald Trump took office. Probably it's about a year old, I think.
Okay, and I think that's the right timestamp you wanted me to queue up, right? 153.
Yeah, something. Yeah, about
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Decide that, and the Methodists go here, the Lutherans go there, the Anglicans go here. That's not the body of Christ that we believe the church is.
You recently wrote an open letter in response to Pope Francis's letter to the U.S. bishops. And some of those issues certainly were pointed at Trump policies, recently. Can you talk a little bit about that letter that you wrote recently?
Sure. The gist of it was on the whole immigration issue. And, certainly the church supports immigrants. But again, the model, the image that I use that to me captures what I believe and understand. It's like, you have a home with your family and you have locks on the doors
and
I'm
alarms.
Sure, and we talked about you have instructed your older children who are close to being adults, if not adults, that, yes, they can bring friends in, but with some rules and with some parameters. If you expand that to the world, what the Vatican's saying and what Pope Francis basically instructed bishops is you don't have a right to a door on a front door on your home. You don't have a right to tell your kids that, whoever wants to wander through and raid your refrigerator, that's perfectly fine. You have no rights in that area. That is ridiculous. That isn't the tradition of the church. Believe me, I've been put in some strange situations, but here I am with Ordo Amoris, a Latin phrase that basically an ordering of love, loosely. The Vice President J.D. Vance speaks of Ordo Amoris correctly, that you love your family, you love those around you, it expands from for you as a married man, your wife is at the very center of your Ordo Amoris. You love your wife above all after God.
You got that right, Ash. Absolutely.
And I've often told married couples, and I think you would absolutely agree, the best way you love your children is to love your wife. And any conflict there, you revert back to, I love my wife. That's the best way to love children. And that gets forgotten. But it's those principles, like you talk about subsidiarity, that's a right ordered understanding of subsidiarity. I think it's one of the biggest ways that we're a mess in the world today and in the church, because you look at the smallest model and then it grows beyond that to the world. It's the same thing with immigration. Absolutely. A nation has a right and a responsibility to have borders and to have structures. Certainly, those can be unjust and that needs to be looked at. But to just say it should be wide open, in the great conflict there that many pointed out, including the new border czar that President Trump appointed, the Vatican is a walled city.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, they've just recently sort of bumped up the consequences of just waltzing into the Vatican without, authority.
Well, I remember they had they were saying back during COVID that we should have open borders on our borders in the country. And so how many millions of non-vaccinated people were going to be flooding into the country? And that's what the Holy.
Okay, they're getting off
we've
of
heard enough.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say. Okay, now he speaks for a lot of Christians, not just a Catholic. It's a common sense standpoint. First, take care of your family. And let me say, you Catholic bishops, by that stance you just took, you hurt my family. You're hurting all families because you invite the immigrants in here. It now makes it harder for me to get a job. It floods the labor market. My wages go down. So I have a harder time supporting my family when I had a family before she divorced me. Also, yeah, crime goes up, which puts my family at risk. So you're trying to say, oh, we need to love all these other people. Well, you're hurting me and my family. Love starts in the family first. You're making no sense. And okay, on economic basis, let me tell you something. We can take the money that we use to support these people who come here, if we use that to assist them in their native countries, it will help 5 to 10 people there versus one person here. And if we actually do it right, we can advance their countries, the education, the opportunities. Hey, we can give clean water to thousands of people. I mean, basically what I'm saying, you Catholic bishops, and well, really, all you Christian leaders, you got your heads up your asses.
Steve needed to rant for a bit. You guys have heard enough of my voice tonight. and my voice is kind of going. That was a lot of reading for me.
Here's the other thing. You're not winning. There is a great debate going on right now. Tradcon Christians against the red pill. Oh, because we are saying, yeah, the marriage situation is really bad. Under the current rules, don't do it. Oh, we're bad because they want to promote marriage and get all the young people or young men to marry again. And the young men want nothing to do with it because they've seen broken families, divorces, and they're not falling for it. So now they're rolling out all this propaganda to convince the young men. It won't work. Let me tell you one other thing. When Christ was on earth, he started his ministry when he was 30, and he was crucified when he was 33. He recruited the apostles. They were all probably contemporaries. The apostles were in their 20s. So now think about this. If you can tap into all these young men and talk to them about something that makes sense and bring them into the church, but put the men first, and because there's a hierarchy here, you get the men in church, and then you set the criteria for marriage that the women have to abide by. You can change the world with all these young men, but you cannot change the world by fighting and ignoring the valid concerns of these young men. And immigration and marriage laws are the two main things, because you're taking away their opportunity. Yeah, if they get married and have kids, then the wife is going to take away their kids, and now they're enslaved. They see this. Fix that, and you will have an army of young Christians that can change the world.
Yeah, Steve, they could fix it, and they would have an army of young Christians that could change the world. But there's a small problem here. An army of Christians who change the world, well, they change the world. And the world as it is today is really, really, really good.
For boomers.
Well, I was going to say for their pocketbooks, but also.
Yeah.
I mean, Enoch Powell in his speech called out the bishops, in hiding under their sheets in their palaces. And bishops live very well. They are very well paid for their
So does Joel Osteen.
Yep.
Oh man.
But that's the thing. Everyone is looking at this thermonuclear weapon just laying on the ground in front of them, and they're all going, "No, I don't want any of that. I want to go fight this war with a fork." I mean, yeah, you'll do a little damage with a fork, but yeah, go up against anybody who knows what they're doing, you'll get taken out. Whereas we are literally telling you guys, here is an army. You can have it. And you can change the world with it. But you are going to have to give them something. And they look at that. It could be, there was another thing recently that I saw. There was a Congress critter who was giving a speech in front of boomers. And his solution to the Social Security crisis running out of money was just tell Gen Z to get 2 jobs. That was his whole solution to the problem.
What for?
Yeah, exactly.
And you wonder why they're still playing video games in their mother's basement or whatever,
Well,
what for?
It was a Republican congressman too. And this is why we advocate for men to check out, to not get that job, to not chase after women. All of those actions are simply actions that are designed to further the existing system. Well, if you don't like the existing system, don't partake in actions that further it. Does that mean that you're not going to get laid? Yeah, probably. Does that mean you're not going to have kids? Yeah, probably. Not get married? Yeah, we would definitely recommend don't get married. Okay.
Does it mean you're not going to have a good job and drive a nice car and all that? Yeah. Okay, now we realize all these things go against your nature.
Yes, we do. They do.
Men want to improve. They want a purpose. They want to have success. They want to have a family, and they're just itching to do it. But the circumstances are just so horrendous. The risks are so high of doing that it's best to just survive for now.
In fact,
once the circumstances change, we know you're going to desire to achieve those things. And then there'll be an explosion of work,
family formation,
innovation, and drive and family. It just boggles my mind if you tap into that desire by enabling it instead of job owning. It would be astounding.
Yes, but no one wants to, because it is not worth it to them to do so. It is not worth it to them personally, financially. Which is why, men, it is okay. Think of it this way. Pastor Nick, Steve, you guys have studied the Bible. You understand the concept of fasting. Okay. Right now, you men are fasting. You are setting aside the normal order for a time and a purpose.
Correct.
And that is a biblical thing. That is you can do that, and for a time you should do that. That is a good biblical Christian thing to do, is to fast from the system, is to take yourself out of the system. And hey, look, gentlemen, of you out there listening, if you take this time of not making enough money, of not having kids, of not having a house or fancy cars, and instead fast of those things and focus instead on things like, I don't know, studying the Bible, studying philosophy, studying history, You will become the future leaders. You will be the ones who drag us out of this malaise that we're in. But you can't do that. You do not have time to do that if you are married with children. And, as Alex says here, that, that's why they push for marriage once you have children. Then you're responsible. Therefore, you must work and the IRS will get their shard first. Right. They want you in those systems because you don't have the time, you don't have the energy, and you're busy funding their system that keeps you not having the time and energy. But if you walk away, if you fast of this system, if you remove yourself from it for the purpose of studying God, for the purpose of studying philosophy, history, whatever floats your fancy, you have done a good and godly thing.
Yep. Add that to some of Cappy's advice on not on the numbers on women, the menu, and some of his books on how to live.
Oh, there's lots of great guides on how to do this.
Yeah.
Cappy's are pretty good. I like his. Guys, there is another way. And if you make that your purpose, if you make that study your purpose, I can guarantee you, as somebody who has done it in my past, not so much right now, but in my past, I have made that level of hyper-focused study my purpose was some of the most fulfilling time I spent with nobody else, with communing with just God and myself, just that. I mean, that's where the term communion comes from, right? That's where the idea comes from. You will discover that as a purpose, you are going to walk out of that when the time for that has ended in your life. You're going to walk out of that with an unshakable frame and, frankly, an indomitable spirit. You will take over the world. And that is what people are so afraid of. The system is so afraid of the idea that men might disappear for a time, stop supporting the system, and instead of using that time for weed, use that time for reflection and learning. They don't mind if you leave the system to go smoke weed and destroy your brain. They do mind if you use that time to learn and study. That's what people don't want.
Gen Z, the young Gen Z men, it's going to happen at some point. They're going to be a dominant force. And when they get to that point, there's going to be a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, and people are going to be afraid of them because they're going to kick ass and take names at some point.
I would say they're already moving in that direction, and the opportunities to prevent it from happening have passed. And here's the thing, you can say Gen Z. Gen Z is, doing math, 19 years old and younger. Even millennials are doing this. Marriage rates amongst millennials are the lowest of any generation alive. Particularly younger millennials are very much picking up on this. The older millennials, we kind of have to deal with. We didn't know how bad it was going to get, and so we made some errors along the way. But
yep.
Go ahead, Nick.
I said, "Oh yeah."
But even then, for you elder millennials who are married with children, you have this, in many ways, you have a harder time of this because you're going to have to go to your wife and you're going to have to tell her that you will not be spending money like you used to. You have to remove finances. You'll have to control it. that you will have to, you will be, we do strongly recommend you save money, because what's coming in the future, that will be a net benefit to you. Tell her that if you guys have credit card debt or debt of any kind, tell her that you are going to be paying it down. Tell her that she is going to have to get good at cooking, and perhaps cooking with beans and weenies. Okay.
And
these are things.
When you do this, save the money in your name only.
Yes. Please.
Not joint account, because if she gets dissatisfied with you, that money is just going to disappear. I guarantee.
Oh,
right,
yes.
Nick?
It will disappear.
And things will magically appear in the house, won't they, Nick?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Mike, how did we afford those, $25 haircuts a piece for 5 kids?
Interesting.
The finances are just fine. Wait, how did we just spend $500 here and there? And don't worry, the finances are just fine. They weren't.
Hey,
Nick, but you had your inheritance, right?
Oh God.
No.
Wait, that disappeared
that too?
Yeah, a lot of it. A significant portion.
So yes, gentlemen. Yeah, Alex, beans and rice. Tough times are coming. If you guys were to literally wake up tomorrow, turn to your wife and say, all unnecessary expenses are hereby canceled. We are throwing money at our debts, because I know a lot of you guys have them. And you say this is non-negotiable. And you can even tell her, look, there's a future I see coming, and we need to prepare for that. And she'll wail and scream and the gnashing of teeth. And you just look her in the eyes and very calmly say, that's too bad. We can no longer afford to live this way. Some of you guys, you say, oh, but she'll leave me. Okay, so she abandons the marriage. Grant her the writ of divorce. Well, I have kids. You have leverage is what you have. You have leverage against you is what you have. Honestly, better to find out now. But for some of you guys, you will discover, for you elder millennials, you will discover that some of the women will go, okay. And they'll actually do it. One of the biggest problems that we encounter in the red pill space is getting guys over the hump, so to speak, of accepting that women can, in fact, just accept orders. That doesn't mean they all will. In fact, most of them won't. But the only way you'll know is to try. And you could say, look, honey, we have to do this. Because
here's the funny thing. Most women like taking orders.
Yes.
And they feel more secure. But when it's first imposed on them, they resist it, and they're going to test it. They're going to test the boundary. And she might be angry at the boundary and pushing against that boundary. And she might simultaneously be angry with you and become aroused. Those two things can actually happen at the same time.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, they don't call it make-up sex for nothing, gentlemen.
That's taboo according to the church.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I am taboo in the church. Well,
you can't have any fun.
I know. Yeah, we can't have any fun. Such a church that we've managed to create over here. My goodness. So, I mean, this is another thing where we're like, guys, you cannot continue feeding the system. Here's another thing that I'm going to say as a result of what we've talked about here, that Pastor Nick and Steve are I'm gonna watch their faces, and they're scrunching. I don't like that. The Catholic Church runs massive NGOs dedicated to immigration.
Yep. Yeah, they did. It's
Yep.
like one of the big ones my late grandmother funded. I don't know what it was called. It was like some Catholic organization that funded immigrants settling in the U.S. I forgot what it was called.
Okay.
And I'm not sure all of
Catholic
them were
Social Catholic Social Services is the predominant one. It used to be kind of part of every diocese, but then they kind of split off. They've taken a lot of government funding to promote this, as has Lutheran Social Services. I mean, up in the area where I live, those are the two predominant ones promoting immigration and funding all these people coming in that take all the jobs and leave nothing left, or reduce the opportunities of the people who live here.
I want to say something, and that this is going to stick sideways in the craws of some Christians, both Catholics and otherwise. Do not donate to your church. Do not donate to any church programs like the CSS. Instead, you go to your pastor and you say, if there is a need in the church, in this specific congregation, for which I can help with, please reach out to me. Sometimes it'll be financial, but oftentimes it's not. Can you help with this? And then if they ask, you say yes. Because part of the problem with the Catholic Church and the CSS and all of this is the churches themselves have become farming operations for fundraising for these things. And even if you donate to your local church, you have relatively little control over where that money goes and how it's used.
Well, it's even worse than that.
Yeah,
Plutarch.
so I was tithing to my church, and guess what? Guess how they use that money?
You. Oh, well, okay, Nick, you would know. How did they use it?
They funded my ex-wife to kidnap my kids and take them over 1,000 miles away without informing me. Oh,
yeah.
And the ministerial association I was the president of, they do fundraisers and stuff. They have a little store. They do some good, but they also support these like government funded NGOs that, she's claiming this. We need to help her out.
Yes, the
they
victims.
sent her money too.
The victims.
So from the pulpit, they're berating men. Behind the scenes, they support a woman who comes in with any claim against her husband and will report him to the authorities or whatever and support her in whatever she wants to do to end the marriage. They do more harm to families than they do good. Now, okay, salvation and all that stuff is important, but how can you support an institution that pretends to support marriage because it's really important and pretends to support children, but if you don't support the father, you're not supporting the children? How can you support an organization like that with your money? And I'm not just speaking about the Catholic Church. It happens there, but it happens in damn near every church.
Yep. I mean, Nick's Protestant. His church stabbed him in the back and then sends money to women's shelters. There's nothing, strictly speaking, wrong with women's shelters, but as Tacticus says, oh, look, no men's shelter funds. There's no ministry for men's shelters. And Alex, good man. I went to church last Sunday and they gave me a form to fill out in order to give a donation, and I didn't fill it out. Right. it is okay to direct your donations. Christian charity is not a blank check for the church to decide how your charity should be dealt with. I've given money to charities that I am aware of. I have donated lots of time to charities where I know exactly how my time and money is going to be used. I've done, they were mission trips, but they were inside the United States, whole weeks given. I had, take vacation, I donated my time because I knew what I was doing and I knew what they were going to be doing and I trusted it and I was right to. I saw the benefits of it. That is Christian charity.
I actually am a proponent of tithing. However, I do say you need to be very careful of how you administer those funds. And I know not every member can dictate to the church how to spend their money, but if you see them doing things that are quite frankly abominations in the sight of God, funding these women to destroy their families, funding these churches that, basically promote kidnapping in some form or fashion, even though they wouldn't call it that. Or funding, feminism in its forms. You should not, I would say, direct your funds in a way, or your tithe in a way that you do not become complicit in the actions of the church.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to describe it. It's that idea of directed donations. That's what I'm trying to get at. Alex, he's saying, oh, if you want to donate to cancer research, then donate to the research itself, not the organization. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Tithing itself is a great idea, but the churches have taken it and corrupted it to fund all sorts of things that are abomination, as Nick says. And do you really want to be complicit? Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, exactly. Part of your donation went to the 30 pieces of silver. I mean, there's some truth to that. And so I would say for the time being, until the church cleans its shit up, it's better to not tithe directly to a church, but to donate directly to specific things where they can. And here's the thing, this allows you to donate to things that you specifically see need in. It actually allows God to direct your donations where he wants them and where they can be most useful. This sort of, oh, well, we just blanket donate money to the church. It doesn't solve anything. And it funds all sorts of things that are abomination. Like, why would you do that?
And a good thing to do, if you know a man going through a nasty divorce or has been through one, got to realize that guy doesn't have a lot of money. He could be living on 50% of his earnings are probably just gone. And he still has to pay taxes. So he's probably living on 30% of what he makes.
Yep.
That's me.
So recognize these guys, a lot of these guys are hurting quite badly. Some of them are actually living in their cars because they can't afford an apartment. Or they have a 1-bedroom apartment. Help out these guys when you see them.
Hey, they're supposed to have a So it's like this, guys. Like what Steve's saying. Absolutely. Okay, so this happened to me, a pastor. And how many of these a-holes helped me out?
None.
Not a effing one. How many helped me out when I was in jail for my faith? Not one. Oh, I'm one of these guys that, I've got 50% basically out of what I'm making. Oh, but I'm supposed to afford a 3-bedroom apartment or house, right? So my kids can come visit me based on what effing income? So
Doesn't
should I get
work.
the 1-bedroom apartment?
Or the studio apartment, right?
Yeah, I mean,
right. They take all your money away, and then they say, well, if you want to see your kids again, you have to go out and buy all this shit. Okay. What they're actually really saying, Nick, is we want you to go out and make so much money that we can take it from you to fund the lifestyle that your wife demands. That's what this is about.
And then she'll just take you back to court
and get
for
more
an adjustment to child support. So they take more money from you and you're not any better off. And then when you say, fuck this, and you go back to your other job, well, now they're not going to lower your child support because you were capable of earning it. So, no, it makes no sense to even try.
And this is why we say, gentlemen, fast. Remove yourself from the marriage system. Remove yourself from the economic system to the extent that you can. We're not saying, wander up into the hills, but take that job managing your local, I don't know, McDonald's, right? Yeah, you're not going to make a lot of money, but you'll make enough that you can live. Yes, you are not going to attract the hot women. In fact, you probably won't attract any at all. That's okay.
That's okay.
The Apostle Paul said that he would much rather you live like him. It's right there in the Bible. It is okay to be unmarried. It's like, I know it's not a very popular thing to say in the tradcon space, but what you have to understand is the tradcons want you on this system. They want you to be destroyed by the divorce court system. Why? Because that's what their real power base, the women, want.
The tradcon men who are promoting young men to get married I don't know any of them that are divorced. They happen to be one of the lucky guys that is still married. And so they have no idea how nasty and bad it is and how you don't stand a chance. And generally, they're a little bit older and they have no idea how things are for young men, from the job situation, from the quality of women's situation, and from the chances of a successful marriage situation. They have no idea how bad it is.
So, Tacticus, yes, we are, to hear the church tell it, we are evil and heretics for demanding transparency and stewardship of tithe money. Yeah, sorry, we are. And you know what? If that is what a heretic is, then I guess heretics we shall be. Alex, you are correct. Thank you for pointing this out. Also remember that the court, for every dollar collected from child support, they get the equivalent from the federal government or more, not less, or more, so that they can help other single moms. This is yet another reason to not get married and frankly, to not have kids, because every kid you have represents real dollars to the government and real dollars to the single women dependent on the government doing this to you. And yeah, Alex, you're on fire today. I love it. So remember, guys, if you're paying child support, then you're also supporting someone else's kids that are not yours because their father is an actual deadbeat. Yes, absolutely. Don't do it. The only way to beat this system is to starve it. It relies on men out there who don't know these things, who don't know how the system works, who don't know how the system feeds on them.
Most of that money doesn't go to other single mothers. It goes to pay the social workers and the system which is used to screw you over.
Yeah, this is better, Steve.
No, it's worse. You're paying incentives to your oppressor. They couldn't oppress you if they weren't getting all this money, which, guess where it's coming from? It's coming from Social Security, Title 4D. It's coming out of your future retirement funds.
Yep. Hey, if we deleted
What a
Title 4D,
racket.
maybe Social Security wouldn't have such a liquidity problem. I'm just saying, just ideas, guys. Just throwing that one out there. So, well, we are done for the evening in terms of what I had on my books to cover.
I'm good.
You're good, Nick? Steve?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a great show.
And
go ahead. Next week we'll have an interview with Dr. David Edgington that we recorded a few months ago on his book, The Abusive Wife. So that'll be aired next Wednesday.
Okay.
The day before Thanksgiving. So
I guess
Steve
it's coming through backwards. I get the mirror. Just put it in the mirror, and then you'll be able to see it.
It's right on our
I
side.
saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming through right for you guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
On my screen, it shows backwards. So, yeah, that's who it's going to be on next week.
So, and since when we do interviews, we always get this pushback. So I just want to say this now. When we do interviews, we are not blood sport people in general. We're ideas people. So when we invite somebody on to either, this podcast or even my wife's on Saturday, our job, we do not see our job as trying to educate them and force our views on that person. Elena did a interview with Dr. Sulikowski, and we got some comments like, "Oh, why didn't you tell her about this red pill truth?" Or it's like, because that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to listen to the ideas that other people have and to analyze them with them in real time. And we did push on Dr. Sulikowski a little bit, but our purpose is to learn.
I pushed on Dr. Edgington a little bit.
Yep.
He didn't. Some of it, yeah, you're right. But in general, some things he didn't agree with. And it's not a debate. I'm not going to hammer on him about that. He's an older guy. He's definitely a boomer.
So I just want to throw that out there for you guys. If you guys are looking for a high speed blood sports, knock them out red pill thing, that's just not how we do what we do. And we're never going to do it that way. We've said time and again that we're just not interested in blood sport conversations, debates, whatever you want to call them, because we view it as ineffective. It makes for great entertainment, but it's bubblegum entertainment. It is sugar for the soul.
We're not a debate society. We're a think tank.
Yes. So there are lots of people out there who will offer you all of the confectionery debates that you desire. You come here for ideas. Speaking of, if you like the ideas presented in this one tonight and you know a guy who needs to hear them, please share this video with them. Yes, we were talking about immigration, but we were also talking about other things there too. So I'm pretty sure that there's a man in your life who needs to hear something we said tonight. So yeah. And if you liked it, I see there's some likes on the video already. Thank you. If you have a question, you want to learn more, Alex asked for a link to the interview with the bishop in the chat. So if you go look at our chat history, if you're watching this later, there will be the link to the full interview there. Be warned, it's about 3 hours long, or more. I can't remember. It's long, but that's in the chat. If you want links to any of the other stuff that we showed tonight, we can give you those as well in the chat or in the comments. And if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, obviously subscribes are a good way to hear more. So go ahead and click the subscribe button if that is your fancy. We do not make any money on this, and we never will. So that is what it is. Your subscribes are just internet points as far as we're concerned. So yeah. Yeah, Elena says, join us on Saturday. We will have fun, although I have no idea what she's planning, which means, and she hasn't told me, which means she's got something up her sleeve that she'll probably talk about tonight. After, yeah, Nick knows. So with that, we will see you all on Saturday for some of you and Wednesday for the rest of you. Bye.
So yeah, that
go ahead.
Still live?
Yeah.
That Bishop Strickland interview, removed by the Pope. Just search that. Removed by the Pope, Strickland. It's a 3.2 hour or 3 hours 21 minutes. It was a great interview about a Catholic bishop essentially giving the boot. He seems like a good man to me.
Yep. I did drop the link for that in the live chat for Alex if you guys want to go hunt for it. So we will see you all either Saturday or next week. Later.
Later.
There was a firefight! Son of a bitch!